When a little girl in a wheelchair insisted on meeting the most dangerous dog in the shelter, no one thought it was a good idea. Not the staff. Not her mother. Not even the volunteers who'd spent months trying to reach him. But 7-year-old Mia Bennett had already made up her mind. And some decisions, it turns out, are written in a language older than fear. They called him Titan. He arrived on a Tuesday morning in early autumn, carried in a steel cage by animal control officers who wouldn't meet his eyes. A German Shepherd mix, massive and battle-worn, with a coat the color of smoke and amber. Scars ran like rivers across his muzzle. His left ear was torn. And his eyes, those deep, amber eyes, held something that made even the kindest heart step back. Not anger. Hopelessness. The shelter director had seen it before. Dogs who'd been used, abandoned, punished for crimes they didn't commit. Dogs who'd forgotten what gentle hands felt like. The intake form read, aggressive. Not suitable for adoption. Approach with extreme caution. For 3 months, Titan lived in the last kennel on the left, the one tucked away from the cheerful chaos of the adoption floor. He didn't bark. He didn't beg. He simply sat in the corner, a mountain of fur and sorrow, watching the world through bars he'd learned not to trust. Volunteers left food at his gate. No one went inside. The afternoon light would sometimes find him there, casting golden stripes across his scarred face, and for just a moment, you could see it, the dog he used to be. The one who'd once believed in love. The one who'd once had a name that was spoken with kindness. But those moments passed quickly. And Titan remained alone. Mia Bennett knew what it felt like to be stared at. She knew what it felt like when people whispered. When they looked away too quickly. When they smiled with pity instead of warmth. She'd been in the wheelchair for 2 years now, since the accident that took her father and left her with legs that no longer remembered how to run. Her mother, Sarah, had tried everything: therapy, support groups, new schools. But the light in Mia's eyes had dimmed. Until one Saturday morning when Sarah suggested they visit the Meadowbrook Animal Shelter. Maybe, her mother said softly, we could find a friend. Mia had wandered slowly through the rows of kennels, past the puppies tumbling over each other, past the older dogs wagging hopefully. She'd smiled at a few. Petted a golden retriever through the fence. But she didn't stop. Not until she reached the last kennel. The one with the handwritten sign, staff only, do not approach. And there, in the shadows, she saw him. Titan sat perfectly still, his massive head lowered, eyes fixed on nothing. But when Mia's wheelchair came to a stop in front of his gate, something shifted. His ears twitched. His gaze lifted. And for the first time in 3 months, Titan looked directly at another soul. Mom, Mia whispered, her voice trembling with something Sarah hadn't heard in years. That one. I want to meet that one. Absolutely not. The shelter director, Tom, had appeared almost instantly, his face pale. Sweetheart, that dog he's not safe. He's not ready for visitors. But Mia didn't move. Her small hands gripped the arms of her wheelchair, and she stared at Titan with an intensity that made the adults uncomfortable. Please, she said quietly. He's scared. Tom exchanged a helpless glance with Sarah. Mia, honey, he's been labeled aggressive. He's never let anyone close. I can't let you. He's not aggressive. Mia's voice was steady now, clear as a bell. He's hurt. Like me. The words hung in the air like a prayer. Sarah knelt beside her daughter, searching her face. Baby, what do you mean? Mia's eyes never left the dog. Everyone's afraid of him because he looks scary. Everyone's afraid of me because I can't walk. But we're not scary, Mom. We're just sad. Silence fell over the corridor. Tom ran a hand over his face. He'd been doing this work for 15 years. He knew the rules. He knew the liability. But he also knew the look in that little girl's eyes. The look that said, I understand him. If I go in with you, Tom said slowly, if I'm right there, And if your mom says yes, you can try. But the second he shows any aggression, we're out. Understood? Mia nodded, solemn as an oath. Sarah's hands trembled as she signed the waiver. Tom unlocked the gate. The metallic click echoed like thunder. Inside the kennel, Titan rose to his feet. All 90 pounds of muscle and scarred survival. A low rumble started in his chest, not quite a growl, but a warning. A boundary. Stay back. I've been hurt enough. It's okay, Mia whispered, wheeling herself forward an inch. Just 1 inch. I'm not going to hurt you. Tom's hand hovered near his radio. Sarah pressed her fist to her mouth. Another inch. Titan's lips pulled back slightly, revealing teeth. His body tensed. Every instinct screamed danger. But Mia didn't flinch. I know you're scared, she said, her voice breaking. I was scared too. When I woke up and couldn't feel my legs. When I realized Daddy wasn't coming back. I was so scared. The rumbling stopped. Titan's ears flicked forward. Everyone looks at me different now, Mia continued, tears spilling down her cheeks. They treat me like I'm broken. Like I'm something to be careful around. But I'm still me. I'm still Mia. She reached out one small hand, palm up, fingers trembling. You're still you, too. Aren't you, boy? Time folded in on itself. Later, no one could say exactly how long they stood there, the little girl with the outstretched hand, the broken dog with his walls of fear. It could have been seconds. It could have been lifetimes. Titan's eyes moved from her hand to her face. Back to her hand. To her face. And something ancient stirred in his chest. Something that remembered. Kindness. Slowly, so slowly it was almost imperceptible, he took one step forward. Then another. Tom barely breathed. Sarah's tears fell silently. Titan's massive head lowered until his scarred muzzle was inches from Mia's palm. He inhaled deeply, taking in her scent. Bubblegum chapstick. Lavender shampoo. Saltwater tears. And fear. But not fear of him. Fear for him. It's okay to be hurt, Mia whispered, her voice cracking like dawn breaking. It's okay to be scared. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to be alone anymore. Titan's eyes, those deep amber eyes that had held nothing but emptiness, began to glisten. And then, in a moment that would replay in everyone's memory for the rest of their lives, Titan closed the final distance. He pressed his scarred muzzle gently into Mia's palm. And leaned. Not aggressively. Not desperately. But with the quiet surrender of a soul that had finally, found someone who understood. Mia's fingers curled softly around his fur. Good boy, she breathed. You're such a good boy. A sound emerged from Titan's throat, not a growl, not a whimper, but something in between. A release. 3 months of isolation, years of pain, a lifetime of misunderstanding, all pouring out in one shuddering exhale. He sank to the ground, resting his great head in her lap. And Mia wrapped both arms around his neck and wept into his fur. The shelter fell silent. Tom stood frozen, his radio forgotten, tears streaming down his face. Sarah had dropped to her knees, one hand pressed to her heart, watching her daughter, her beautiful, brave daughter, cradle the head of the most dangerous dog in the building. Other staff members had gathered at the kennel gate. Volunteers who'd been terrified of Titan. Animal control officers who'd transported him in a cage. All of them stood witness to a miracle they couldn't explain. In the golden afternoon light streaming through the high windows, a little girl and a broken dog found what they'd both been searching for. Someone who saw them. Not their scars. Not their limitations. Not the labels the world had placed on them. But their hearts. Mia's wheelchair gleamed in the sunlight. Titan's scarred face was pressed against her small shoulder. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Love has a language all its own. I want to take him home, Mia finally said, her voice muffled in his fur. Please, Mom. He needs us. Sarah looked at Tom through her tears. Tom looked at Titan, at the way his entire body had softened, at the way his tail had begun to wag slowly, so slowly, like a flag of surrender and hope combined. "He needs you too," Tom said quietly. I think maybe you both needed each other." Sarah nodded, unable to speak. The paperwork could wait. The protocols could wait. This moment, this sacred, impossible, beautiful moment, couldn't. They say that broken things can never be made whole again. But Mia and Titan proved that wrong. Because healing doesn't always look like erasure. Sometimes it looks like two wounded souls recognizing each other across a shelter floor. Sometimes it looks like a little girl brave enough to see past fear. Sometimes it looks like a dog brave enough to trust one more time. Titan went home with the Bennetts that evening. In the years that followed, he became Mia's shadow, her guardian, her best friend. He learned to walk beside her wheelchair with perfect patience. She learned to laugh again, learned to hope again, learned that strength comes in many forms. The shelter staff would later say that Titan never showed aggression again. Not once. As if that day in the kennel had unlocked something in him that had been sealed shut by pain. Or perhaps it was simply this. He'd been waiting. Waiting for someone who understood that the most dangerous thing in the world isn't a scarred dog or a broken body. It's a heart that's forgotten how to love. The day Titan met Mia was the day they both came back to life. Not because they were healed, but because they were finally, beautifully, seen. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today.